Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm back with a new video on VICIDIal, cluster installation. Before I go to the installation and technical details, I wanted to thank all new subscribers and whoever liked and commented on my videos. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. In this video, I want to teach you how to install VICIDIal in cluster mode. What is cluster and why do we need that? VICIBOX can be installed all in one. It means all components that are using in VICIDIal can be installed on one physical server or virtual machine. These components are web server, telephony system that's using Asterisk, database, for example, that's using MySQL, or all other components. There is no problem with that, but the issue is happening when you want to expand your installation, when you want to have more agents. One server, physical or virtual machine cannot handle a lot of agents. Based on your physical or virtual machine or based on the server specs, a maximum, in my experience, in a even powerful server, you can have maximum up to 50 or 60 agents. Of course, it is not what VICIDIal team recommends, but this is what I have used and it's really working. Even in one server, one physical server, you can have up to 50 agents in predict dialing mode that the dial level is 4. But this is not the standard method. In big implementations, we need to install in cluster mode. In cluster mode, we are segregating the roles into different VM or physical machines. For example, we are installing database in one VM, web in one VM, archive for recordings in another VM, and the dialer as much as you want, 1, 2, 3, or how many you want in another VMs. Of course, one or two roles can be installed on the same server. For example, here in the minimal cluster installation, we have one database here. Web and archive servers are the same, and we have one dialer. If you want to add more dialers, definitely we can do. In this installation, I want to teach you how to install VICIDIal in cluster mode with 3 VMs. So let's get started. Let's start by database installation. And the first steps, setting IP address, setting time zone, updating the VICIDIal is the same in all installations. So I won't repeat that. I will just do it for the database, then I will skip for the other two because the steps that I'm explaining right now are exactly the same for the web server, archive server, and also for the telephony server. So let's get started. After you have boot the VICIDIal, you need to select install VICIBOX10. We are using VICIBOX ISO. If you don't know how to download, please refer to my video on how to install VICIBOX on the VirtualBox. You can download from the website and load it on your virtual environment or on your physical server. After you have booted to the CD, click install VICIBOX V10. It will ask you that it will destroy all data on your virtual machine or your physical disk. Of course, it will repartition and use all the partitions. So yeah, there is no problem here. We click yes. It will load the VICIBOX raw ISO file. You can log into the system using username root and password VICIDIal, VICIDIAL. After you have logged into the system, you need to select the system locale, EN/US. Your keyboard, usually it's US. You need to accept the license. So if you click exit, then you need to agree with the terms of the license, enter yes. You need to set your time zone. I'm located in Malaysia, so I'm selecting Asia Kuala Lumpur. And you need to enter a password. Select a safe password. It will collect network information. If you have a DHCP in your network, it will get the IP address. I don't have any DHCP here, so I will set my network manually. Okay, after you have the login prompt, the first step is to set the IP address. For setting IP address, we are using command yast lan, Y-A-S-T, space L-A-N. And here we can set the IP address. I will select my network interface, edit. From dynamic, I want to set as static. So I will select with a space, and then I will assign my IP address in my local network. And this is the database, and the IP that I want to assign for it is 10.10.0.120. My subnet mask. And you can put the name. So, for example, I want to give it as db.omid.blog and click next. Next step is to set the host name and DNS. So I will go and change the host name to db.omid.blog, and I will set internet DNS 8888 and any other DNS that you know you can set here. And last step is to set the routing. So routing is your default gateway. So I click add, and I will set a gateway here. This is my internet gateway. And select OK. So in this step, we have set the IP address, DNS, hostname, and also the default gateway. And I'm pressing OK. So it will check the configurations and apply the configuration. Okay, the first step is, let's, before everything, check our internet. So ping google.com. Okay, great, we have internet. Next step is to set the time zone. To set that, you are using VICIBOX time zone, VICIBOX-time zone. And we hit the enter. This is very important because if you do not set the time correctly, you will have problem in cluster. Even in the normal setup, the timing in telephone is very important. So it needs to install some packages. I will press install. It will automatically download and install the packages that it needs to set the time zone. So it's very important that when you set the IP address, before you run any other command, you check your internet connectivity. Okay, now we can set the time zone. I'm setting Asia and Kuala Lumpur. Let's see, where is it? Yes, it's here. And I'm pressing OK. Okay, the time is set. Next step is to update your Linux. VICIBOX is using the SUSE, so the command is zyper update. It's a necessary step, especially as you can see here, it wants to update the kernel. So we need to update the Linux and reboot the system once, and then we install the actual installation of the VICIDIal. So just press yes. This step may take a little time because it wants to download the packages and also extract them and install them, and some of the packages based on your server or VM specs may take some time to install. So I'm pausing the video here and I will back when the installation is done. Okay, after the update is done, we need to reboot the system because it updated the kernel and we need to boot with the new kernel. So we press reboot and enter. By default, even if it loads from the CD, from the ISO file, the default option is boot from hard disk. So we just press boot from hard disk. This time when it wants to bring up the network, definitely it will use our new IP address that we have set. We log in with root and the password that we have set during the installation process. So this time the password is not VICIDIal. It is the password that you have set in the previous step when you wanted to install the VICIBOX. Okay, everything is good. To install the system, we can use VICIBOX install command. So we press VICIBOX install. It will run the VICIBOX version 10 installer. It will ask, do you want to continue with the VICIBOX installation? Of course, yes. Do you want to enable expert installation? Yes, because we want to install cluster mode. It is available in the expert installation. The internal IP address is 10.10.0.120. This is what we have set in the previous step. So we just use the same IP address. Yes. Will the server be used as a database? Exactly. This is the server that we have assigned for the database. Will it be a slave database? No. Do you want to use the default VICIDIal DB settings? You can change these settings, but in the next installations, you need to remember these items. For now, let's go with the default settings. So yes, we want to go with the default settings. Will this be server used as a web server? No, we want to assign web server to another VM. As a telephony server? No. As an archive server? No. Do you want to enable the built-in firewall? For now, we don't need. I will record a video on how to set the firewall for the VICIDIal. So for now, we just disable it. And that's it. It will ask you, these are the default configuration. For example, the name, username, the password, and so all are the default settings for the database. Do you want to continue installation? Yes. So that's it. Actually, it will install the database server and it will configure all the necessary items for a VICIDIal database. It means it will install the MySQL database. It will create the asterisk database, the database that we need for the VICIDIal, and that's it. We can actually reboot, and the installation for the database server is done. Before we reboot, let's verify MySQL dash. Actually, with MySQL alone, you can connect to the MySQL console, and to see the databases, show databases. As you can see, we have the asterisk database. So the installation is complete for the MySQL server. Just exit, reboot it, and we will go for web and archive and database. So we just run it, and that's it. That's for the database. Let's go for installation for web and archive server. So let's start the web and archive server installation. The first steps are exactly the same. So we need to put to our CD and actually install VICIBOX version 10. I will go faster for this web and archive server. Yes, we want to delete all the data. Login with username root and default password VICIDIAL. Select the locale, select the keyboard, accept the license, select the time zone, select the root password, set the IP address with LAN, I will set as static, and the IP that I have assigned is 121, the subnet mask, and let's name it as web.omit.block. Next. Okay, it is 225. Okay, I have the same IP address in my network, so let's change the IP address to 119. And then I set my host name again as web.omit.block and name server as internet name server. Sorry, I forgot to set my gateway, so I will enter again, yes, LAN, and I set my routing, and I set the default gateway as my default gateway, that is 10.10.0.254. Okay, and the next step is VICIBOX time zone. Of course, we needed to test if you have internet or not, but I'm sure I have internet, so just I click VICIBOX time zone and install and set my time zone. So I set my time zone as Asia Kuala Lumpur as well, and I press OK. Next step is to update the system. For update the system, the command is zyper update, and after that I need to reboot. So I press yes to update. As you can guess, we can use the VICIBOX install command. Do you want to continue with installation? Yes. Do you want to enable expert installation? Yes. What is the internal IP address? Yes, this is the IP address that we have set. Will this be served as a database? No, this is not a database. So when you said this is not a database, it will ask for the database IP address. Our database IP address that we have installed in the previous step was 10.10.0.120. Do you want to use the default VICIDIal setting? Yes, because in the previous installation, we have used the default VICIDIal installation. So we press yes. Will this be served as a web server? Yes. Install redirect page? Yes. Install phpMyAdmin. phpMyAdmin is a tool to actually manage database or web server or start or stop services. It's useful. You can install it. Will this server as a telephony server? No. Is it an archive server? Yes. And what is the archive server IP address? This is the IP address that we are using for the same server. So the same IP address, 10.10.0.119. Archive user, just press the default. Archive FTP password, accept the default port, and default directory, and default URL. Do you want to disable built-in firewall? Yes for now. It will give you a summary and then you can click yes for installation. It will disable the firewall and install this box as a web and archive server. To ensure that, of course, you need to reboot the system and load the system, but if you want to check, you can use systemctl status Apache 2. As you can see, the web server is installed and running, so the installation is complete. The installation is good. We can just reboot it and let it come up with the actually default boot from hard disk, and that's it. You don't need to log in, just it needs to be running. Now let's go to install the telephony server. So for the dialer, I have already done the same steps. I just booted to the VICIBOX. I did the actually initial steps. I set the IP address and also I updated the system and I have rebooted. Now I'm in the installation steps. The same command, VICIBOX install. Do you want to install VICIBOX? Yes. Do you want to install expert mode? Yes. What IP do you want to use? This is the IP address that I have assigned for my dialer 1. So I will use the same. This is 10.10.0.118. Is this server used as database? No. So what is the IP address of the database? 10.10.0.120. So it's very important that this IP should be pingable. So they all should be in the same network, these 3 VMs that we have installed. Do you want to use the default DB settings? Yes. Will this be served as a web server? No. As a telephony server? Yes. As an archive server? No. And do you want to disable the built-in firewall? Yes. And I can actually press yes to continue the installation. This will be our dialer. So if I run *r, it should be able to actually go to the asterisk console. As you can see, it's installing the audio store. The audio store is the audio files that asterisk or the dialer part, the telephony part is using. And to test an installation after reboot, I can just log into the system. Oops, I entered the wrong password. Okay, and if I enter *R, then it will log into the telephony console. So the telephony system is installed here. Of course, we can upgrade the telephony because it's version 13, not the latest at the moment, but we will cover in the other video. So, okay, after the installation, we should be able to log into the web panel and configure our settings. Let's try. In order to test our installation, we can just enter the IP address of our web server 10.10.0.119, and as you can see, we have access to the web panel. Let's log in. The username is 6666 and the password is 1234. This is the default username and password. So 6666 and 1234. I don't need to save. Continue for initial setup. I need to set a new password. Let's set as, for example, I don't know, omit block. And we set the time zone as your country. It's +8 here. And it is Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. So I just submit, and I need to log in again. So I just enter again, login 6666 and omit block. Sorry, omit block. Okay, after I have entered, I need to access. These are the same exactly like any other system. So first I need to give access to myself. If you do not know what I'm doing, you need to watch the previous videos on the VICIDIal configuration. I'm just giving access to myself so that I can have access to all functions. Of course, for testing, we don't need that. It's okay as we have access just to the reports. So because I want to go to the reports, and here, as you can see, database only. As you can see, I can see my database server and my dialer server. And if I click on the servers, you can see this is very important that the times are synced. And when the time are synced, then it's all good. So the web server, DB, and dialer. The web server is the one that we have connected to. This is the database that we have installed, and this is the dialer. So after this, everything is like normal. So you just segregate the roles, but in a way they are all in one. So you can simply use the server, but whenever you want to extend, for example, you want to add another dialer, you just need to install another VM and add to the cluster as we had done it right now. Okay, thank you. This is a cluster installation. I hope it helps you in your big setup. If you have any question or any problem, please comment here. I try to answer them, and we'll see you soon. I try to put videos more regularly, so I will see you soon. Thank you.